The smell of damp earth and roses clung to the walls, whispering secrets you weren't meant to hear. I never believed in curses, not really. My grandmother's stories about restless spirits, houses that devoured their owners, were just bedtime tales. The ink bleeding as if the paper had been crying. You must come at once. She's not herself. The house is changing her. No signature, just an address. A forgotten estate in the mountains of Hidalgo. The bus ride took half a day, each mile deeper into silence, thick enough to press against the glass. The air grew colder, wetter. It smelled like flowers left too long in stagnant water. When I first saw the house, it looked asleep. Walls the color of rotting bone, tall windows staring like half-lidded eyes. Somewhere inside, a curtain moved, though no one was there. The locals had warned me, crossed themselves when I mentioned the address. One woman grabbed my wrist and whispered, "It's not the people you should fear, Mia. It's the house, standing at the gates." I felt its weight pressing down on me, somewhere deep in my chest. A voice whispered, "Leave now." I didn't. I stepped forward, and the house began to breathe. The iron gates groaned as I pushed them open, the sound carrying into the valley like a wounded animal's cry. Gravel crunched under my shoes, though each step felt muffled, as if the air itself didn't want to disturb the house. The mansion rose above me, its tiled roof sagging under years of rain, its balconies twisting like the bones of a crooked spine. Vines clung to the walls, but they weren't green. They were pale, brittle, gray as ashes, curling in shapes that looked too much like hands reaching for the light. I knocked. The sound didn't echo. It was swallowed. The heavy door opened, not with a creak, but a sigh. A man stepped into the doorway, thin, face in shadow, despite the light behind him. His suit was immaculate, though his collar was buttoned too tightly, as if afraid his head might fall off without it. "You've arrived," he said. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "Yes," I answered, though it felt like a question. Inside, the air was heavy, warm but damp, the scent of old flowers, candle wax, and something metallic, like blood. The floor was black and white tile, cracked in places, missing in others. The walls were lined with portraits, men and women with faces too pale, eyes too bright, all staring straight at me. The man led me through corridors without explanation. Some doors were chained shut, others stood ajar, revealing only darkness. From inside came faint sounds, footsteps, the creak of a chair, fabric shifting. But every room I looked into was empty. We stopped at double doors. "Your room," he said. A canopy bed with yellowed curtains, a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. In the reflection, I saw a tall, thin figure standing beside me. Faceless, I turned. Nothing. Dinner came an hour later. 3 places set at a long table. Across from me sat a woman in a faded green dress, her hair pinned in loose coils, her smile too wide, as though she'd forgotten how to make another expression. "You've come to help," she said. Not a question. Help with what? Her eyes flicked upward. "It's better if you don't know yet." Above us, the chandelier trembled. No wind. 1 candle flickered, shadows writhing along the walls. That night, in bed, the house made a sound. Low, steady, rhythmic. Not wind, not rain, breathing. The first night passed in fragments of uneasy sleep. Dreams came heavy. I stood in the hallway, the walls pulsing like veins. Whispers brushed my ears, urgent but soft. I woke. The whispers faded, like footsteps retreating. At breakfast, the man in the suit served coffee that tasted faintly of soil. The woman in green was gone. An elderly man with hollow eyes sat in her place, drumming his fingers in an irregular rhythm. The same one I'd heard in my dream. When I asked about her, the man in the suit said, "She rests. The house tires her easily." He said it as if the house were a person. By midday, the damp had sunk into my bones. I explored the rooms, every one steeped in shadow, even with the curtains open. Dust hung in the air like ash. On a bookshelf, I found volumes in a language I didn't recognize. The pages warped, stained a dark reddish brown. At the end of the hall, a nursery. Wallpaper peeling, patterned with faded roses. A rocking horse in the corner. As I stepped inside, the floor groaned. The horse began to sway. On its own, the tiles beneath me turned red, shining wet. The smell of damp roses choked the air. I woke. The mirror across from my bed was fogged from the inside. At dinner, the woman in green returned. "The house likes you," she said, almost singing. "It's been so long since it's had someone new." The chandelier swayed again. Pale vines curled down from one chain. Vines that hadn't been there before. Later, I caught sight of a tall, thin shadow slipping into a chained room. When I reached the door, the chains were swinging. Inside, nothing but darkness. From that darkness came a sound, slow, wet, like roots pushing through soft earth. I shut the door. The sound didn't stop. It began with the walls, a faint pattern under peeling paper like veins. I touched it. The paper came away, revealing a pale, fleshy membrane beneath. Warm, soft, pulsing. The woman in green came to my room that night, barefoot, hair loose. You've heard it, haven't you? She asked. Heard what? The roots. She led me into the cellar. Lantern light revealed walls threaded with pale, glistening ropes. They writhed slowly. In the center, an enormous, throbbing knot of living tissue. Faces formed and dissolved across it. This is the heart, she whispered. The house grows from it. It feeds through us. We live through it. She pulled up her sleeve. Faint, branching lines ran under her skin. It gives us life, but in exchange, we belong to it. Because the house is hungry. That night, I dreamt of tendrils creeping up from the floorboards, slipping into my skin. The man in the suit brought me tea. I saw vines snaking up his wrist. It will be easier if you don't resist, he said. I tried to leave, but every hallway led back to my room. Windows I'd opened were closed again. In the mirror, my reflection blinked when I didn't, smiled when I wasn't smiling. The house was already inside me. I tried again on the third night. Rain lashed the gravel drive. I crept toward the portraits, watched me. The floor felt soft. The air thickened. Roots slid from the walls, crossing the floor like pale serpents. One wrapped around my ankle. Flashes filled my head. Faces of those who'd come before. I ran. Roots chased, tangled, bit into my skin. The man in the suit appeared on the stairs. You can't leave, he said. The woman in green smiled. Breathe. Let it in. I burst through the door. One step outside before Roots yanked me back, dragged across the floor, down the stairs, into the cellar. The heart loomed, pulsing. The whispers became a roar. Roots wrapped around me, pushed into my veins. Pain, then calm. My hands bore pale, branching lines. My breath matched the heart's pulse. You belong now, she said, and I understood. I wasn't leaving. The house had me. I opened my eyes, and they weren't mine anymore. I don't know how long I've been here. They show me centuries of memories when new guests arrive, and they always do. I watch from the balcony. I smile. The house is patient. It waits, and when it takes them, I help the roots wind deeper. If you smell roses in the rain, turn back, because the house remembers, and so do I.